Stronger Marriage Podcast with Trey and Lee. On this podcast, you'll hear real topics about real life. They cover everything from married sex to raising kids to loving your spouse so much that you're willing to forgive them for occasionally being the most annoying person in the world. Trey and Lee have raised 4 boys, been married over 30 years, and somehow still really like each other. And now, live from the metropolis of Childress, Texas, a place so flat you can watch your dog run away for 3 days. Here are your hosts for the Stronger Marriage Podcast, Trey and Lee Morgan.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, glad you joined us today. Welcome to the Stronger Marriage Podcast. We start off with an apology of saying we didn't get it done last week.
We did not get it done. Life kind of got in the way of getting an episode on the air last week. We had spring break and college kid home for a little bit. And
every day we said we're going to podcast right now, something would pop up, and it just did not work. And so thank you for being patient with us. We skipped a week. We've had 2 podcasts on getting along and everything else.
Yep.
And this week we're going to talk about smartphones.
Phones have been a part of our lives for a long time now, haven't they? They
have. We 10 years ago, they were just kind of new. 15 years ago, we really didn't think much of it. And now, cell phones are just who we are, and they're an extension of our body. There are some good things about cell phones in marriage, and there's some bad things about cell phone in marriage and families. And sometimes we can talk about families as well. But we're going to talk about some do's and don'ts today and kind of how to handle that.
Yeah. So the question is, are phones intimacy killers, or are they a blessing to our relationships?
And I think yes.
Yeah, the answer can be yes.
I think it can. What you don't want to do is you want to use your cell phone to bless your marriage and not hurt your marriage. And there are definitely some don'ts on cell phone rules in marriage. And there are definitely some do's, some things that can be really... What we don't want to do is we don't want to swing the pendulum too far. A lot of times when bad things happen, you just automatically go, well, shoot, let's just get rid of this. You can do good things with it. We'll talk about it in a minute. There are certain apps that get bad raps, or people go, I'd never have that. You can do good things with whatever it is. We'll talk about that in a minute. We're big fans of Snapchat and use Snapchat, and we use it for good. And a lot of folks don't like Snapchat, which is totally fine. But we use it for some ways to bless our marriage and family. And we'll talk about some of those things, different things that you can do to bless your marriage. And then we'll talk about some things that will get it in trouble if you're not careful.
That's right. Do you remember our first cell phone?
I do. It's a bag phone.
In a bag. Somebody posted one of those pictures the other day, on social media, and it had like 9 different kinds of cell phones. It was like, which one was your first? And I was like, okay, well, I'm old because our first isn't even on there. It was
exactly right.
In a bag.
It was in a bag, and you could plug it in your car. It didn't have a battery. And I remember calling my mom for the first time. This is probably late 90s, and saying, guess where I'm at? And she said, home? And I said, no, I'm actually in my car and driving. And she said, how are you doing this? And yeah, it was just the new thing. And I think our first actual mobile phone was one we shared, and it was about the size of a loaf of bread.
Yeah, it was big.
It was massive.
I don't know about a loaf of bread, but
it was close. Yeah, it was huge. You walk in and set it down on the table. It doesn't go in your pocket. There was no way it'd fit in your pocket. You'd have to have a purse to carry that thing. It was a brick.
A big purse, yeah.
Yeah, and so phones have changed, and now everybody's got them, and we want to use them to bless our marriages and our families and not hurt our marriages and families. So let's start with some positives. Can we start with some positives before we do the negatives?
I think so.
All right?
Yeah.
I like positives. I'd rather do positives than negatives. So we're going to talk about some things that you can use your cell phone to bless your marriage.
So share your day is the first thing that comes to my head. You can just simply use your phone throughout the day to share your day if you're not together.
How would this have blessed us as a newlywed couple back in the late 80s? We were 22 and about 18 at the time, and can you imagine how much easier and less frustrating life would have been for us, because in the old days, now some folks will understand this. If you're listening to this and you were pre-cell phone age, okay, but if you can't really remember marriage before pre-cell phone age, there were times where I would say goodbye in the morning, or you would say goodbye. We would go to work, or we'd do whatever we were going to do, and not see each other again till late afternoon or early evening, whatever it was, and we'd have no clue what went on during the day. There was no checking in. There was no, you could call and try to find, hey, is so-and-so at the office? But now we really can use our phones to just kind of check in and go, hope you're having a good day.
That's right. And you were a youth minister, and so in the evenings a lot of times, or after school, you were out, hanging out with kids and stuff, and I was home with a couple of little guys, and then you certainly couldn't track you down by phone if you weren't at an office where I could call you. It was just kind of like, I think he'll be home in 2 or 3 hours. That's kind of what he said. So, but if you got tied up, you had to literally find a phone or something to check in. So it would have made life a lot easier.
It would. I remember a time when a couple of guys picked me up and said, you want to go fishing? It was about 6 o'clock, and I figured we were going to go fish for a couple hours and it'd get dark and we'd come home. And we rolled in at 2 o'clock in the morning. We'd been out catfishing after dark, and I just remember thinking, my wife has no clue where I am or anything.
Yeah, I think I ended up calling both of their wives at some point going, is this normal? Are they okay?
Because we didn't communicate. I didn't know what we were doing. But use your phone to check in. Use your phone to go, I'm running late today, or I hope you've had a good day, or I'm thinking about you. Checking in during the day is a healthy part of marriage. Just to say, hey, I'm not going to be in time for supper at 6. It's going to be 6:30. Checking in is called respect. When you check in on your spouse or you ask how their day is going, you're not trying to control them. You're loving on them and respecting them, and that's a matter of I love you enough to let you know that I'm running behind, or whatever it is.
Yeah,
that's just healthy stuff.
It's good stuff. And just checking in, sharing your day through your phone, that just kind of helps keep you connected when you're apart.
That is right.
During the day. So that's a good thing.
We threw out on social media this morning, we challenged kind of husbands, send your wife a good morning text. And a wife shared her screenshot of her husband, that he does that every day. He sends some little message about thinking about you this morning, or good morning, beautiful, or whatever it was. And I thought, that guy has got it figured out. Just take a second to let your wife know you're thinking about her. That's good stuff.
That's right. Because it doesn't take more than 30 seconds.
Tops. To change your spouse's day by just telling them you're thinking about them. So share your day with your spouse through your cell phone. That's a way to bless your marriage. Check in. Secondly, you can send a sweet text message, or we'll talk in a minute about a spicy text message. We call them that. You can call it a flirty text message, but sweet text messages, that good morning, beautiful, how are you, I'm thinking about you, sometimes just an I love you, a thank you, just a sweet note. I love those. I screenshot a lot of those when you send me some note, or when our kids send me a note saying, hey, you're a good dad. Those mean a lot to me.
Yeah. Sometimes even if we're just not in the same room together, maybe I'm off in the back part of the house doing laundry for a while or something, and you'll send me a note and say, or a message that says, I miss you. When are you coming back in here?
Yeah, or in the mornings.
Yeah, when are you getting up? Please get up.
It's like I get up so much earlier than you. I'm a morning person and you're not. And there are times where I send a message to Lee that just simply says, will you get up and have coffee with me? I miss you, And of course, you're not going to find that until you wake up. But those are just a great way of telling your spouse, you're thinking about them. Send one another sweet text. Handwritten notes are good. Today, you can take just seconds to send them a note, just a text, just to let them know. A spicy or flirty text message is healthy. You're good at that, and I like those. I don't know any husband that doesn't like a flirty text message from his wife. And so you can send a sweet one and you can send a flirty one. But those are good ways to build up some anticipation for seeing each other later that evening or whatever it is.
Yes, I agree. Easy, quick way to just build one another up.
We met a couple we tell this in our workshop, but we met a couple at our workshop where they came up to visit with us after a session, and she said, we were talking about using your cell phone to flirt, and she said about once a week I like to go to the lacy drawer, the lingerie drawer, and I'll pick something out from there, lay it out on the bed, and take a picture of it and send it to my husband with a message that says, I'm planning on wearing this to bed tonight. She said, I think her words were, 2 things happen every time I do that. She said, 1, he comes home early, which I love, and 2, he always comes home in a good mood. And he was listening to it and grinning the whole time, and he said, I can't ever concentrate at work when she gets those to me, but I love them. But I just thought, now they've got it figured out. This lady knows how to love on her man through a flirty text message, because he was eating that up.
Yeah,
so
that's good stuff.
Yeah, use your phone to bless your marriage. Give us another one.
So one thing that we really like to do is to share things via social media, I guess, that we like, or things we have in common. If we see a funny meme, we're always sending it to each other. Workouts, we follow a lot of workout pages on Instagram, and we'll send different workouts to each other that we like to try.
Have you tried this? And let's do this one next.
Yeah, yeah. Picture memories that pop up on our phone from 6 years ago, a trip we took. It's like, hey, did this come up on your memory today? And
I sent you stuff this morning on Snapchat of memories of us remodeling the kitchen and building a coffee bar. And it's just a great way to go, oh, yes, we did that together. Those are healthy things. A lot of people on our pages, which I love, will tag their spouses in some sort of social media post that we do, which we think is great. It's just, and we do that with one another. It's, hey, did you read this? Or this was good. And so, yeah, when you can do that, that's a healthy thing to do when you're sharing things like that on social media with one another, passing on things that make you laugh. Cat videos, I think that's a favorite of mine. I don't know that you send a lot, but I do like them cat videos.
Food, we like to send recipes. It's like, oh, let's try this one.
Yes.
So
that's a healthy thing to do with your phone. And another one is Lee brought this up. I think she read it somewhere, or maybe she just thought of it. But I thought it was fantastic.
We do this.
We do this, and I'd never really thought about it. Was have a special ringtone notification for just your spouse.
Yes. When you're calling me, there's a different song that plays that nobody else has, and if you're texting me, it's like a little whistle sound that really gets my attention, and I know that it's you, and I need to pay attention to what that text says. A lot of times I'll just ignore most of my little dings or whatever, but if I hear yours, I'm like, I better check that because he might need something.
Yeah, and that is true, and that's a healthy thing to do. I have a different ringtone for you than everybody else, and text message. So, and of course, we think it's good that with a spouse, they ought to have priority on answering those as soon as possible. Now, there are some times where I can't immediately answer a text or a phone, but I promise you, if I reach in my pocket and I've got 4 text messages and one of them is my wife, I start with her. And so,
I'm glad to know that.
Yeah, give your spouse priority when it comes to returning calls and stuff. And do your best to answer your phone calls from your wife and stuff. And there are times when you can't. There are times where I have to ignore, but my wife knows the second that I'm free, I'm going to call her back and let her know something. And then there are some times where I'm just talking to a buddy and I go, hey, here's my wife. Give me 1 second. And I have yet to ever have anybody that's gone, you mean you're going to make me second to your wife? And so, when it's not anything that's very serious.
Yeah. Good point. Do a Bible reading plan or a Bible study together on your phone.
Yeah, that's another good thing.
Something you can do.
We've done that and probably need to do more of it.
Yeah.
Where we sign up for a little Bible study thing that we both get, and then we can talk about later in the day. Right. And that's good.
The Bible app, is that what that's called? Just the Bible app on your phone?
Let me look and see what that
to make sure that's exactly what it's called.
I have my phone right here. But, it's called the whole YouVersion.
YouVersion, that's it. YouVersion.
And they do devotionals all the time.
I think a lot of people are familiar with that.
They do devotionals on marriage. And,
yes, they have some excellent, just short little, they might be a 5-day, 7-day little marriage devotional that you can each do on your phone. And you can check off that you've done it, and there's a place for you to write comments, and where each other can read the comments that you've written after you do your little devotional. So you don't necessarily have to sit down and do it together. You can, but I I may do mine at 8:30 in the morning, and Trey gets his done at 6:30 in the morning.
That's right. But it is a good way to use your phone to do some fun things together. We mentioned this earlier. I'll throw this back out here. Mm-hmm. This is good. When you see a good marriage post or something that somebody's posted on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, whatever it is, it's okay to tag your spouse or screenshot it. Mm-hmm. We hear people say, my spouse isn't on social media, so I screenshot your posts and send them. That is a great way to talk about stuff. Sometimes I'll ask Lee, why did you tag me in this? What was it about this post that stood out to you? We had a good conversation yesterday about a post that another couple, I didn't understand it. I thought I'm gonna ask Lee to look at this, and maybe she can help me understand what they're trying to say. And so it's good. It just brings up good conversation in marriage about stuff.
And it's not necessarily that you send something to your wife or husband that you think they need to work on. It's more like, hey, you do a great job at this, and I appreciate that.
Sure. Or sometimes we can send stuff and go, we need to work on this, or could we do this
and
more
we
often?
See that a lot of times with our posts. If we have, here's 6 things that can bless your marriage, and somebody might say, we need to work on number 4, and that's great. That's healthy.
Yep, that is exactly right. To be able to say, and when you tell me this is something we could use to work on, or something I could use to work on, I don't take that as a personal knock in the face. I take that as a, hey, here's maybe something I hadn't thought about that you would really like. Mm-hmm. And so it's okay to have your spouse go, I like that when you do that.
If we don't communicate needs and expectations and those kinds of things with each other, then, you're not going to know it if I don't tell you.
That's exactly right.
Don't be afraid to share.
Yeah. So. There's one more on this list that's really good, and we talk about this in our workshop and get a lot of feedback on this.
This has been a huge blessing to us as well.
We share calendars on our phone. If I put something in my calendar of something I've got going on, it immediately pops up on your phone, and you put it in your calendar so that I never have something on my calendar you don't know about, and vice versa.
Yes.
We can keep up with one another. And so that helps us in communication. It helps us with scheduling. We're very busy people. I can look at my calendar in 2 weeks and know that we're either completely free on a Thursday or that you have something going on that day, because we share a calendar. We both update the same calendar, and it shows up on our phone. Now, people will ask, how do we do this? You can use Google Calendars, and you probably need to Google it, how to do it. Don't ask us because we won't be able to walk you through it. We both have an iPhone, and we use our iCalendar, and it allows us to do that. But we also know you don't have to have iPhones. You don't even have to match phones. Somebody can have an iPhone, somebody can have a Google phone or an Android, and Google Calendars will do that. So it can be done in whatever phone that you've got, unless you got, like my old friend Paulie, and you're still carrying a flip phone, then you probably can't do that. So.
It might need to be a little bit of a smartphone.
Yeah.
So, that's excellent. And families, you can have a separate one for just the two of you if you want to, but you can also, if your kiddos are all involved in different things, you can, and they all have, your teenagers have phones. Do a family calendar where you've got everybody's sporting events and all of that kind of thing, so everybody knows, well, hey, so-and-so has a game tonight, and I've got one tomorrow night. And I just think that's a healthy way for couples and for families to communicate, know what's going on.
Nothing's more frustrating than somebody going, hey, this is going on tonight, and you go, I didn't know that. I actually planned something else. Mm-hmm. And so when you can share a calendar on your phone, it is a blessing.
Yes. Very good.
So let's talk about some don'ts or some problems or some things that
things we need to be cautious about
with cell phones that can get us in trouble.
Bedtime usage. So, it's tempting to get in bed and to scroll through your feed and to clear all your notifications, and we do some of that. You got to set your alarm. You got to update apps, whatever. But maybe you need to answer a few texts that you've ignored throughout the day. But I think maybe if you need to do this, set a kind of a time limit and say, hey, let's take 3 or 4 minutes to just do this real quick, and then let's get them turned off.
That's when you go to bed together with your spouse. First, going to bed with your spouse is healthy. We've talked about this over and over and over. Go to bed at the same time if you can. But you don't go to bed at the same time and then look at your phones. Mm-hmm. Go to bed, talk, communicate a little bit. Do look at your calendars. We do that a lot of times. We'll go, what's on the schedule for the next couple of days?
Yes.
But then spend some time talking, spend some time cuddling. It is a great time for intimacy. And if you're just constantly looking at your phone until your spouse falls asleep every night, then that's not getting done.
That's right. It's a great time to pray together. There's
Yes.
just a lot of really great things about going to bed together at the same time and not just sitting there looking at your phones, actually spending time together.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Another thing that
Dating your phone.
dating your phone. If you go out on a date with your spouse, and we know how hard it is to find date nights. When you go out on a date with your spouse or you go eat lunch with your spouse, don't date your phone. Don't sit there and look at your phone while you finally get some time with your spouse. You don't just sit there and look at, look at the person across the table from you and not your phone. Make a rule. Hey, we're not going to answer it. We're not going to look at it unless it's a babysitter.
It stays in the pocket.
Yes.
Stays in the purse. That might be the time when your babysitter needs to have a special ringtone so that you know we're not going to look at it unless it's the babysitter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is important. Make sure that when you're out together alone, that the phones stop for a while so y'all can have some time together. This next one was a tough one for me and still is. Sometimes I did this morning specifically think, oh, I got to stop what I'm doing. You started talking to me. Third thing that can kill intimacy is not listening to your spouse because you're looking at your phone.
That's right.
And I'm one of those people that often feels like I can multitask well, that I can text a kid and listen to you tell me something at the same time, and that I can't do that as well as I think I can. And so when you're telling me something, I try to take my eyes off of my phone and look up and look you in the eyes because I can listen much better.
And I'm trying to do better about not, instead of just talking or asking you something, just saying, hey, have you got a sec? Or when you've got a sec, I need to tell you something. And letting you finish, because you might be right in the middle of sending a text message to somebody or whatever. And so, so that gives you a little bit to finish up what you're doing. And then you look up at me and go, okay, I can listen. So that's a good habit to get in, I think.
Yeah. Looking up. I always tell the joke that, one time you as I was sending a text message, you said, you haven't heard anything I've said, have you? And I remember in my head thinking that's a weird way to start a conversation. So yes, I hadn't heard anything you said.
Yes.
The next one maybe fits more in families, and this is a family point we want to throw out there for a second. We need to do some family podcasts. We do a family workshop. We probably spend 80% of our time talking marriages. But we need to talk more family stuff. And one of the things families need to do together is they need to eat together.
Yes.
They need to have mealtime together, one meal a day.
That's right.
Families or couples need to sit at a dinner table, not in front of a television set in their living room. It is a holy, holy place around the dinner table. And while you're there, make the rule. It was our rule, no cell phones at the table.
That's exactly right.
Because you cannot accomplish what you're setting out with everybody looking at their cell phone.
We may just need to do an entire episode on the dinner table.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea. And why it's important.
The benefits and the importance of the dinner table.
Yeah, I think that would be a good thing.
Yes, leave your phones off. Don't even bring them to the table because it's a time when you can connect. And even if it is just the two of you, you still need your time to just connect without your phones. There's plenty of time in the day to be on your phone. And when you're sitting down to the dinner table, that's the time that you're focusing on the people at the table with you and not the people on your phone.
Yeah. Good point. Let's look at the last two.
Yes, and we've talked about this
we'll throw it
before,
out there again.
But it's got to be said. You should have no secrets when it comes to your phone. There should be total openness and honesty. You share your passcodes. If your phone goes off, it should be fine for your spouse to pick it up and hand it to you, or to even read the message out loud to you. You do that a lot of times when we're driving. You're like, I can't answer that. Would you just read it out loud to me, and then you'll tell me how to answer it? And yeah, there should just never be any secrets.
I felt good the other day. We threw a poll out on our Twitter page, and it asked, are you comfortable with your spouse looking at your cell phone? 92% said yes. And that other percentage said, no, it's my personal private property. Mm-hmm. Now, personally, our feelings are, and this is just our feelings, I'll just give you our opinion, if you're locking your spouse out of your cell phone and if you're saying this is my private property and my wife or my husband is not allowed to look at that, that just throws up a red flag that you're doing something on your phone you shouldn't be doing. Mm-hmm. You're deleting text messages, you're talking to somebody you shouldn't, you're looking at things you shouldn't, whatever it is. Your spouse should have every right to use your phone if they need to. We don't go through one another's phones. No. I've never picked your phone up and gone, I think I'm going to dig through and see who she's texting.
We have no trust issues. We don't feel like there's any need to do that.
But at the same time, if you one day picked my phone up and said I needed to look and see what that phone number was on a text message a couple of days ago, I would have no issue because that's the kind of relationship we want to have. That's you don't have to look at my phone, but you're welcome to. If you need to look through something and find something, you are welcome to find it.
Yeah.
And that may be looking through an old text message, whatever it is.
And the day you ever say, "Nah, let me do that, and I'll shoot that over to you," then I'm gonna think, well, why do you not want me to look at your phone?
Yeah. But we do. We get messages from couples sometimes, and it'll go, my husband's put a lock on the passcode on his phone, or my wife has put a passcode on her phone and said, I can't look at it. It just means they're doing something they don't want you to know about. And we're not trying to say have trust issues. We're just saying that the best marriages are open and honest.
Right.
There's no hidden things, nothing secrets.
So it works best for us.
Yeah. Let's look at this last one and let's finish this up.
All right. We've talked about that we need to do another episode on friends of the opposite sex.
Coming up quickly.
That this falls in there. Texting people of the opposite sex. You got to be super careful with that.
Yeah. Or Facebook message, Instagram message. Snapchat message, any of those things. If someone is making you uncomfortable or flirting with you and they are not your spouse, you need to block those people. Or if you're getting messages that make you uncomfortable, that is really not appropriate. Other than passing along information, I do not talk to people of the opposite sex. If somebody says, hey, I need to know such and such, I'm happy to answer those text messages. But it is not my place to ask someone of the opposite sex, how was your day? Hope you're doing well. Tell me about what's going on in your life. Be cautious about friendships and private messages of the opposite sex. And if there's ever an occasion where I think, this is a message I'm sending the opposite sex that I don't know real well, and this is something that I also need to tag my wife in, and I'll throw her cell phone number in there as well, because it's just good, healthy information.
That's right. And it always starts innocent. I mean, nobody ever sends a message to somebody thinking that it's ever going to go anywhere. It always starts innocent, but it's just, it can be a gateway to all sorts of unhealthy issues.
98% of all affairs, the person having the affair at some point or another early in that relationship says, we're just friends. Mm-hmm. We're just friends. You're making too big a deal out of this. So be cautious with those friendships. And honestly, we'd like to say friendships of the opposite sex, but in our day and time, it's just friendships.
Just friendships, exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we'll do a better podcast on that over time. But use your cell phone to bless your marriage, not hurt your marriage. These are some great rules on the 10 commandments for cell phones in your marriage.
Awesome stuff. I hope that something we said, maybe there's something in there that you're not doing that you think, hey, that's a great idea. We should be implementing that. You may have been affirmed by some things that you're doing well. There may be some things you need to work on that,
checking in more often.
Kind of fall in those danger zone areas.
That's right.
So, we just wish blessings on your marriage through your cell phone.
Yeah, use that cell phone to bless your marriage by listening to this podcast with your spouse. Is a great way to do it. Thank you for joining us. We are honored that you've taken time to hang out with us.
Yes, and we will see you next week.
See you later.